Oh, great, man. Happy to be super excited for tonight's session. It's going to be an interesting week. I think looking at the markets this week and looking what's happening in the sort of news and fundamentals, I think it's going to be great. Smiley, how are you doing? What's happening?
What's up? I'm good. Smoky and Stony. I'm good. I'm fine.
Awesome, man. Let's have a look. I'm not sure if Stony, you want to see and maybe take us through some fundamentals. Otherwise, I can maybe switch over to the charts and give it a little bit of a breakdown for me and Smiley to have a look and see what we can find in this market that we are seeing in front of us. Perfect. Okay, well, let's have a look and see what we are currently seeing for today. Just having a quick squiz on sort of the overall structure, just to give everyone, just a little bit of a recap of what we spoke about last week and how we perceived the market. We saw that the market is still overall in this sort of upwards sort of bullish trend. Now, we have had a slight well, not a slight. We've had a nice, decent retracement, following into this week as we anticipated towards the 10th of December, where we said that we need to respect this sort of, region here, which is the 40K region, which is quite a crucial level if we want to see, market continuation to the upside. Now, if we look at sort of zoomed in to a lower time frame and looking at what the current price action is telling us, and we're looking at what our key zones that we mapped out in our report as well as last week's session, what we wanted to see is a break above the $50,000 to $52,500 level or range to give us sort of confirmation after the sharp drop that we saw here to see a continuation to the upside. Now, we did not see that sort of bullish move to the upside with a sort of pullback and a continuation. Now, what we saw and what we're currently experiencing is we saw price come down sort of in this ABC corrective wave here. And then what we saw is price move up into this, key psychological level before we saw a breakdown in the last, 4 hours, almost 6 hours now, that we are seeing currently. Now, what we want to see and just make sure is that we are not breaking below this this level of around sort of just below this 47,500, looking at sort of the around 4,700, 47,125 level. That if we see a candle close below this level, so a candle close below this level, we can anticipate a slight pushback up and then a continuation down. The reason for that being is that if we look at this week here of this candle, this strong push down on the 4th of December, we can see this major wick here, which lines up nicely with our $44,500 level, as well as the 42,125 level, as well as the 42,500 level, which is our quarterly levels and our key psychological sort of pricing areas that the smart money, the commercials and the institutions generally look at, obviously filling and correcting their prices as they go. So what we want to see is, if we break down, we want to see what price does in this region or in this range to see if we could still see a continuation to the upside. Now, this will all depend on if we break below this level here that we've indicated, so below this region, or if we're going to ultimately break above the sort of $50,000 to $52,000 level. Smiley? That's great, man. Look, yeah, definitely looking at sort of the consumer pricing index. We hit 6.8%. It's been interesting to see how that sort of unfolds, and with the all-time highs with some of the markets, the stock markets with Wall Street. It's interesting to see how that affects the crypto market. But I mean, let's have a look and see what other perspectives we've got. Smiley, what do you have for us? What do you see in the market currently? I know we've spoken briefly in the week, but what do you see, in the current market structure and the way price is forming? What do you see? What can you add to us, for this week's formation, and let's see what we can do.
All right. Thanks again, Sound Smoky and Stony. All right. All right. Exactly. Checking everything, checking the structures, everything, one and one each other. Rightly, I would say currently, BTC and Bitcoin is moving exactly towards where money is. When I say something, it sounds crazy actually, but the bitter truth right now is that everything, both the greed and everything we ever need on this chart is there. Now, checking from the weekly time frame, I would say believe and take this. We are going to have a little bit of, should I say, a flash jump, a flash dump with a week, because currently now I see for the for Bitcoin to have unable to break some certain key psychological level. So right now I think what Bitcoin is currently doing now is in search of money. Yeah, and right now I checking the weekly time frame. And I had a meeting with Smokey just quite long that I explained something to him about the trend line liquidity we are seeing, just in terms of generalizing it money. Right now, for like on a previous chart, we expect the previous we expect a close above the key zones, which exactly happened as predicted. And right now, we are today is Friday, and the only thing, and I'm backing up with Tony, is that a close above this key level, I think that is around 47. Oh, sorry, that's around 45,510 and 48,151. A close above those zones, I think it's a more safer zones. But now searching and checking the volume, like the trading volume currently now and the BTC chart, I don't think we are gaining momentums. I think bears are coming in. And now back to 4 hours, as Tony has explained to us, has shown us on his chart. Checking it, we have key psychological zone below it, and underneath we have what we call money. Yes, believe me, Bitcoin is going to visit those zones with a week, and we might just have a liquidity grab. Yes, when I say liquidity grab, don't say checking the weekly time frame. When I say we might have a week. We might have a week to the zones of 34,610 and 29,246. I think that is the next. Support we are having. That is the next support we are having. If price doesn't respect what Tony said, that we should have a close above this zone. If we have a close below those zones, as Tony has said, then it's going to be like bears are coming in entirely. Because checking the weekly time frame, there is no momentum like the bulls are coming in. No momentum at all. Now, and you believe me when I say the more a support zone is tested, the more it becomes weak and higher tendency of it being broken. Yes, and checking the 4 hours, as Smokey has explained to us, I think, yes, please kindly switch to 4 hours. I want to share something. Kindly switch to the 4 hours. Yeah, exactly. Counting the time price have visited that support is more than, let me say, if not 1, 2, 3, let's just say approximately 6 times. And when I say 6 times, the support zone at 47,500 is getting more weaker. Yes, it's getting more weaker, and we can't even check, like checking the higher time frame perspective. We are not even seeing any momentum, no trading volumes. Bears are coming in. Yes, bears are coming in. So in order to be on the safer side on Bitcoin, we need a close, if not a monthly close. Yeah, checking on the monthly time frame, the structures are still intact unless we have, yeah, thank you for that, unless we have a close below. Kindly highlight that zone for me, yes, yes, the first one above, the first one above, yeah, exactly. Permission to call out the figure, we must have a close above 45,213. And okay, you're taking that away. But to be on the safer side, we must have a close about four. Yeah, drop down. Okay, it's okay like that. I'm okay. Yeah, 44,900, 906. We must have a close on that on the monthly time frame. And now back to what Tony said about Bitcoin is full of hypes and the likes. I am going to agree with him because certainly what is happening right now is that entirely institutions like all these big firm traders are going and they're trying to push the market downward and to make sure that they buy at a very low price and what push the price upward. I think I'm in line and I accept what Smokey and Tony has said about Bitcoin. Thank you.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Look, yeah, definitely. If we look at the higher time frames, and we look at how we've performed here, we can see this liquidity grab here, the stop hunt for the buy stops for the guys that's looking for the momentum to the upside. Now, we need to obviously respect this range that Smiles obviously told us about, up to like the 44,900, 44,500 zones. As long as we respect this first zone, we will have a continuation to the upside where we have these protected lows and where price will target the previous highs to see a continuation to the upside. So if we come down to this zone, we respect the previous lows, we would then safely anticipate a break above the previous all-time high. Now, with that, we could also see a scenario where we break down below this low, which would indicate that the institutions, the smart money, the commercials want to drive price lower because we've had quite a bit of liquidity sitting in this key zone before we see a potential continuation to the upside. But currently, price action, we've seen this candle close below the previous sort of pin bar, and we can see it follow suit on the weekly time frame as well. The current candle has opened below the previous candle and is pushing down with a wick rejection to the top, where we can clearly indicate, looking at the wicks, we can see that there's been a rejection here and we can see a push down. So all we need to see now for the next 2 days is see where this candle closes, and in order to know sooner, we need to move down to lower time frames to see what the price has brought in terms of the delivery of price.
So we have a question here actually. So can I actually say, so in other words, it's going to drop even further, right?
That is only if we break below the sort of 47,000 to 47,500 level. If we close below that, as I indicated earlier, with the candle close below this region, then we can definitely see a continuation down. But keeping in mind that we are in a very key zone where we need to see what price does in this region. Because of this wick, there's unfulfilled orders, there's liquidity, there's unmitigated orders, which means that once price pushes down into this wick here, we would then anticipate for price to fill the price inefficiency, the imbalance, in other words, in price, which would then typically, once price is balanced, that would see a continuation, hopefully to the upside, where we need to break above the $52,000 level. So that is quite crucial for us to see, if we want to see a continuation to the upside. But if we see a continuation to the downside, then we can safely anticipate, price moving sort of lower into, these type of regions where we can see price delivery to come and fall imbalance and price inefficiency.
So just having a look at the fundamentals, right? You can see a lot of the news coming in crypto market, easy recovery ahead of year's inflation data release, and you can see some of the other people saying that these typical bow downs, Bitcoin hasn't reached the lower prices that it should, and there's a lot of room for it to still grow. And then you get people analyzing, Bloomberg analysts saying it's going to 100K. So just looking at the news, not even reading most of these articles, just looking at what are these people are saying and what they are doing is, people are, I think people who's got a lot of, should I say, assets in their portfolio are trying to make the most of it and trying to hype it up, because we know what hype can do. But at the same time, I think people are also realizing that we don't really have these funds, and the only people who's going to make this happen are the big institutions. And I think they're in a difficult spot to also make that decision whether they're going to make the push or not.
Well, yeah, that's all relevant in that. What we've seen in obviously various pricing models and data is we've seen the commercials, the big money, your grayscales, your MicroStrategies, and all the big commercials have been adding to their positions. Now, yes, there is a lot of potential to the downside from a liquidity perspective, and in order to move the market needs liquidity. If there's no liquidity, the price won't move. So in that sense, yes. Also, looking at this downside, this is not a negative downside. This is a much needed correction should this correction happen, because there's a lot of price inefficiency to the downside. But also what that does is it allows more opportunity. It allows more buyers into the market, because price becomes more attainable or perceived as better value for money. So that will inject more money into the market, which essentially would push price up. So that's super crucial for the continuation of price as we gear towards the 100K mark. Because price cannot simply go up and price cannot simply go down. So it's always a battle between supply and demand, between the buyers and the sellers. And this is what we're seeing this week. It's an absolute, battle out there, a war going on between buyers and sellers. And we need to see where price is leading us instead of obviously making speculative, opinions about the market. So currently we can see that we are still pushing down, even though the current candle has shown some bullish nature. But until that candle closes, on the higher time frame, it's going to be very difficult to determine. We would need to see lower time frames to see, what, market structure has shown, and if there's a sign of a shift in market structure on the lower time frames.
I think it's
anything you want to add, Smiley?
All right, following everything, you've said it all. Yeah, price, BTC currently needs to grab a lot of liquidity. It needs to grab money so it can move forward. And back to what Tony said about the hypes, everything. What I believe about what is still sustaining Bitcoin is the let me say the roadmap and the adaptability of everything. Yeah, and checking the technical aspect of it all. I to my own personal side, and in line with what Smokey have said, I believe the correction move we'll be saying right now might bat to another impulsive move. So we need to visit some key zones below. We need to grab a lot of BTC needs to grab a lot of liquidity before we see another impulsive move. Because checking from the aspect of the weekly time frame, I'm not really seeing any impulsive move. Like I'm not even seeing any trading volume. All what I'm seeing is just dead candle, red candles all through. So I'm not even seeing any bullish candles. So to me, I believe Bitcoin is moving to the aspect of the demand zone, grabbing all the liquidity, possibly with a week, then we snipe up. That's my own aspect.
No, for sure. Look, what I can see on the weekly as well is that, this strong push down, what's followed by a strong push down is generally a push up, because the amount of money that's taken out of the market to push price down, it creates an imbalance, which means that imbalance, that price inefficiency needs to fall. So with a big move like this, there has to be a reaction, a catapult effect. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that price will, typically move into a V-shaped correction to the upside, because as we know, price needs to build sort of building blocks in order to build back up. So price will typically do this formation in order to gain and build liquidity to see a continuation to the upside. So that is quite important to consider while we're looking at price. But looking at the higher time frames, I'm still bullish on this, even though the lower time frames show us a different story. Due to the fractal nature of the market, we will see impulse and corrective waves throughout the various multiple time frames. So that does not necessarily mean, like, if we are bearish on a lower time frame but we are bullish on a higher time frame, that we are going down, or vice versa. So we need to look at it from a structural point of view and see where are the obvious key zones of where prices made massive impulsive moves, because that is where obviously orders sit and where the general interest in the market is. And that's why we've highlighted these zones for you guys, which is typically where demand forms in the market. So we can expect a move down. Because we had this sharp pullback here, that just indicates to me that obviously price created imbalance and price inefficiency on a lower time frame, where price is now pushing to fill this imbalancing before we see a continuation further down. Because why would the commercials and the big money buy now if they only want to push price back down? We can see an increase in buying orders and not so much in selling orders.
Smokey, let me quickly chip in some things. Okay, right. Checking. I want to put a question to you now. All right. What do you feel about checking the demand zone right now? And I believe for heavy demand zones, there should be a bullish order block where institutional orders are. Are you getting me? Where people's order are. Okay, now. Okay, let me put this question to you now. To me, I believe price has already done its thing already. We have the demand zone has already done its work already. I mean, the $44,654 dollars has already done its zones already, like already done its aspect already. Because after the mitigation, we have a week. It was mitigated with a week, and the next move was what? We have another bearish move. Now, okay. Now, I think if we don't break this demand zone, then we might enter into some choppy market. Or what do you think? I'm thinking from the aspect of these zones that, okay, fine. If a lot of, I'm thinking like if all these institutional traders are kind of saying that, okay, fine, they don't want to see BTC below $40,000. They want it to stay around $44,000. We might have this choppy market. Because to me, I believe that once the zone has been mitigated already, what we should be seeing yet is either with another. I am expecting price to fill that zone again with a week, then we have another impulsive move. But now, checking the momentum, yeah, I believe the imbalances you've said is quietly right. But imbalances are not to be filled immediately. And back to what you said, like the market is not going to form a V shape immediately, but we might have just some higher, lower highs, then we have then we break structure, then we continue our higher highs and higher lows till we reach the all-time high. But the aspect I'm thinking from is that if the institutional traders are going to keep this zone a valid zone for them, then we might consolidate a little bit on it before we have another move up. Because I believe price has already mitigated it already. Then the next move we should be seeing a little bit of maybe a spinning candle that should be green candles, not red, not the bearish spinning candle. Or what do you think? Or I'm speaking out of some perspective at which you are seeing.
No, look, I hear what you're saying. In terms of the mitigation of this demand zone that we see here, that is definitely 100%. But we know that the market doesn't move in a straight down or straight up move. So there is still, because of this massive candle here on the weekly and even on the daily, there is still, if you go into lower time, there's still unmitigated orders in this massive candle. So price won't just simply move up or simply move down. Price has to engineer liquidity in order to move, in a certain direction. Now, we haven't seen a clear break of structure to the downside, which means that we are still overall bullish, even though the current price is in a bearish sort of momentum in a downtrend. But again, we need to see where this moves. We cannot ignore this level here, which is the $42,000, and we cannot ignore the $40,000 as key psychological levels before we see a continuation. So we could definitely see, a push down, sort of a bit of a consolidation, an accumulation zone from a Wyckoff schematic, where we've got a spring action, and then, form your LBS and all of that before we see a continuation to the upside. So we can still see that happening this year. Look at last year where we said, like, potentially, why would Bitcoin go up above $19,000? Most people were expecting a correction, and then what happened? We saw the inverse of that, and we saw a continuation. So we need to consider these things. What we can only react to what price is telling us. Currently, it shows us willingness to move further down. So we need to see for clear change in market structure before we can make a call in terms of whether it's going to go down or up. We could easily come up and break above these levels before we see a continuation to the upside, or we can see a break below this level, which will indicate a continuation to the downside. Again, keeping in mind there is quite a bit of resistance to the downside as well, and I believe that the big commercials and institutions would effectively want to protect their positions, apart from obviously scaling into these positions. So, but let's see what happens. We'll have to see what the weekend brings. Crucial for me would be Monday morning to see what price delivery does, but we'll monitor it over the weekend, and obviously build up towards the Sunday night live to see where we've ended up for the weekend and what the setup in price formation has been over the weekend, to see if we can have some clarity going further down.
I'm quite excited to see what's going to happen.
That's it for now.
That's perfect.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Stoney,
thank you for hanging out.
Is there anything you want to add? Because I think we've covered quite extensively about the market structure, the levels that we are seeing where people can add to their positions, and like where market's going to go and what people need to look out for in terms of these key levels of the $40,000 level, as well as the $50,000 to $52,000 levels, which we are trying to obviously observe.
I agree with you. I think in the news we can see people are anticipating lower levels. I think people can see that this is something very healthy that needs to happen. So who knows? Let's see what happens this weekend. I think I'm going to end off by saying thanks, guys, for joining me for this session. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them down below. We'll answer and try and get to them as quickly as possible. But other than that, guys, enjoy the weekend. Keep an eye out on the markets. It's going to be very, very edging. We're all going to be watching, and enjoy the evening.